Took a shot at Henry, y'all could go and brace it. They know they talk that stick talk.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Slick Talk Real Convos. I'm your host Rick Wandike, aka Slick Rick, and my guest today, I'm very excited. He's a very modest man, but I like to call him the voice of USC. We have Leland Waters here at Casa Guandique, not in the Henny Cave. Again, we're just keeping it inside. I really like the setup with the artwork in the back. I'm gonna get that mounted, but welcome, Leland.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Thanks for anybody who's listening, tuning in. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming out. I know you have a very busy schedule. Like I said, the voice of USC, I say that because you are the primary PA announcer for a multitude of USC athletics. Is that correct?
That is correct. I would say the public address voice of USC for sure. I have announced basically every sport that has an announcer at SC at some point in my career. Some I'm not necessarily the primary. Water polo has a guy. Football, they have a guy for the stadium, but I do internal PA for football. And then pretty much all the other sports that have an announcer. I haven't announced cross country or golf, but they did add. We did start doing some tennis last year.
Okay. So, yeah, that's right. So let's go ahead and talk about that. How did you get your start in PA announcing first?
Well, oddly enough, ironically, the high school that I work at, day job, they just had their first ever game on campus under their new lights. It's the first time they've ever hosted a varsity football game on their campus. And my first ever announcing was for one of their football games. Mm-hmm. The guy who was their announcer had a heart attack. Oh. I'm happy to say that he is still with us today, 26 years later.
Oh, wow.
So I just saw him a couple weeks ago. And I filled in. The high school knew that I did some stand-up comedy. And I don't know that I spoke a lot or whatever. And they said, would you be willing to fill in this game while he recovers? And I said, sure, sounds good. And then from that game, I was able to then, he came back, recovered. And then I was able to, the basketball coach asked me if I wanted to announce for them. And I said, sure. And then the first basketball game, they said, you want to announce for our boys volleyball team and our baseball team in the spring? And I said, sure. So those three sports at Crescenta Valley were my first 3 full seasons with the team. And that summer, around May time, I went to a dinner to meet my best buddy, pledge brother, roommate for years in the fraternity at SC. He had a new girlfriend and was like, what do you guys think? He since married somebody else.
Okay. Well,
but at the dinner was Vicki Hammond, who at the time worked at USC in sports information, and he and I inquired, like, how do you get the announcers? Who are these guys? And she's like, well, we have a list and everything. Mm-hmm. And I was about 2-3 years removed from graduating at SC, and I said, can you put me on the list? She's like, sure. And then about 2 months later, they called and said, would you be willing to do PA for volleyball? Mm-hmm. And having just done a season for the high school, I was like, sure, why not? Okay. Well, PA anything at USC, a Tiddlywinks tournament, right?
Yeah.
And I went down and I met with then Lisa Love, who was our senior associate athletic director in terms of the women's sports, later became the Arizona State athletic director. And been around. She coached volleyball at SC for many years, and we had an interview, and then me and a buddy became buddies later. We did their alumni match, and I did the first and third set. He did the second, and I was kind of helping him with volleyball stuff, and she was really impressed that I was helping him. And from that, I was able to get the women's and men's volleyball at USC, and so this was I just started my 25th season. With women's volleyball, and then added more and more sports over the year. Dennis was his name, or is still his name. He got to do some baseball and soccer and women's basketball, and then when his family expanded, he was having kids. He says, I just can't do it anymore. So I kind of took over his sports, and then just lo and behold, added more. USC added beach volleyball and lacrosse, and they said, you want to announce for those? And they said, sure. And then and here we are to where now I probably do about 150, 160 games / events for USC in a scholastic year.
Yeah, in an academic year. Yeah, you don't get a break from August through May, right? Or June? Or
Not really.
anything? Not too much over the summer, right? Or
I have a little bit over the summer. It's not as intensive.
yeah.
I did I announced a game on July 20th. Took a red eye to Florida. Spent a few days down at the Disney World. And then I flew back on a Thursday. And then that Friday went to Hawaii. Took a little cruise around the islands and spent some days there. I grew up there. And I came back on August 6th and was announcing on August 9th. So little window of a break.
So going back to how you got started, I mean, for me personally, I didn't really have a point of reference. You kind of hear, like when I started back in 2019, doing high school as well, I didn't really have a point of reference of like who I can model after. You know, you've been to sporting events, you kind of hear the people, but you don't really pay attention. If you're not a PA announcer, you don't really pay attention to the PA announcer, how they deliver, their speech, or like, you know, their whatever catchphrases they use for their announcing. Did you have someone, or did you talk to someone when you took up the first gig in high school, the original guy maybe?
I talked to a guy. I remember there was a guy there who had done some PA, and he kind of gave me sort of what you announce at football, you know, result of the play, what's the upcoming score recap after a score, end of the quarter, stuff like that. But he didn't really give me much of here's how you announce. Yeah. And I'd always remember, you know, like Lawrence Tanner of the Lakers, right? But he has his own style, right? I never like would copy him, but it was like, how do you get to where you kind of have your own style, right? And be comfortable in saying, this is what I came up with. I would practice just on my own a little bit. John Shaw used to announce the USC football games and the Dodger games, and many people don't know probably who he is, but he did a lot of PA back in 50s, 60s, 70s. And then Dennis Packer was the voice of USC football. So in a way, maybe I kind of gleaned a little bit from them. But in volleyball, I didn't really know. I didn't have anybody to go off of volleyball. And volleyball is very quick and fast, and you can be excited. So I just kind of, I think, made it my own. And given the fact that I had always wanted to go to USC. It's the only college I applied to. I got in, was able to get a degree from there, was able to run track for USC. I kind of came at volleyball as like a fan. Like, what would I say if I was just there in the stands,
just watching?
And here I get this opportunity to say what I would say to accentuate the play over the PA. So I don't know if that's necessarily a good or a bad thing.
I would say it's good,
but it's worked. So and I think there is a fine line between being so pro for the home team, and so like you never want to be against the away team, but you don't want to also be like, man, this guy is just. It's only if USC does something good do you hear him. Like that shouldn't be the case either. You really kind of, a lot of it comes down to like cooking with spices, right? So I'm pretty even keeled, but if there's something that really like and you're accentuating or punctuating the action. So if there's like a huge dunk, like that calls for like a huge reaction, right? And it's like you're enhancing what that dunk was. Versus like trying to kind of make that dunk happen, or like if somebody was to make like a 12-foot shot at the start of the game, you wouldn't go into like a huge thing, you know, because as a performer side of it, you don't have any place to go anymore, right? So you have to, you know, it's the same with like a volume, you know, you can't be at 10 all the time. And I tell people it's surfing. Like you're creating the waves that people quote unquote surf on or hear, right? And you can't just be going at them like this, right? There has to be some dips and this, and then, you know, like when it's really exciting, then you can, you know, then you can peak, but then you bring it down and that sort of thing.
The professionalism showing. Something that you just said right now, as far as like keeping it even keel, and like you said, when something happens for the home team, you're loud and you're proud and all that. But for the away team, I got some good advice early on from my good friend BJ's wife, Pamela. Shout out to Pamela. I think it was my second season announcing basketball, and I mumble like when I speak. I kind of mumble in general. I just have like my big overbite. I just don't open my mouth. My voice is. I remember being a kid being very loud, so now I just kind of like keep it mellow. But when I was announcing, of course, you hype up for the home team like 3-pointer, and then for the other team it would be like basketball. But because I mumble, she came to me during halftime in one of the games early on in my second season, and she said, "Hey, I know we're not trying to cheer for the other team, but I can't really understand what you're saying. Well, so you need to at least enunciate for the other team so we hear the kids' names. Even you don't have to hype it up, but just say the name properly, and then for our team you can get loud." And that was probably obviously simple advice, but I was always just trying to downplay for the other team early on, like, oh, y'all ain't paying me, this is my team, so I'm gonna hype up whoever I'm working for. And that was probably some of the best advice I ever got as a PA announcer from early on in my career.
It's really an interesting, I don't really want to call it a trend in sports, but there have been stories that I've heard or experienced of like, just don't even say, like, if you say, if it's halftime, say, home team 24, them 14. Like, don't even say what their name is.
Oh no.
And it's like, that's so
disrespectful.
Well, it just comes off as petty.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really do anything to them.
No.
But it makes you look bad.
Horrible.
Like,
yeah.
And I'm talking like professional level.
Yeah, that's bad.
Have told professional level announcers, like, don't say their name. It's like, that they're in the stadium.
Yeah.
You know who they are.
Yes.
They might be leading, and we don't like that, but that's what that is. Yeah. So, like, again, it goes back to you're just, your goal, the idea of public address is like, what are they not being able to get? Or am I making sure that they have all the information that they should know?
Exactly.
Right? Maybe they missed that score. So, like, I'll always say a score recap, if they score a touchdown, 4:35 remaining in the second quarter, home 7, visitors 3, right?
Yeah.
And I always look at it as like, it's also, like you said, a disrespectful, but on the respect side, as a competitor, as a runner, somebody who's been around sports and participated in sports, you have to give props to the other team that they've put in the work.
That they're doing their job.
Yeah. They showed up. They're trying to give you their best game, and you got to respect that.
Absolutely.
And you can't. And I've heard of PAs that high school level and whatnot, and there's a little disrespect or this and that. And it's like, you really just should treat them as just
equal.
They're there.
Yeah.
Not necessarily equal.
Well, I know what you
could slant it to the home team, right?
Yeah.
But just that, hey, they got a point. They got, it happened. I was told one time by somebody, if somebody makes a 3-pointer, you say like 3-pointer,
Leland Waters.
Tom Henry. And somebody said, like, you don't necessarily have to say that. And I'm like, well, what happened? And it would be weird for me to not inform the public of what happened in the game, right? So, like, that, and again, it's that I'm respecting them, that they, worked hard. They got to this point where they made that 3-pointer in this game, and not being petty and like, oh, cool. Like,
3-pointer by that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a thing. I mean, there was, I've seen PAs where you'll have somebody come out for a contest who is probably not facile in sports and make a 3-pointer. And PAs are making fun of them.
Yeah.
And you're like, and it's a sponsored thing, right? So do you think that the sponsor really wants you to be making fun of this person who probably has never even seen a basketball much in their life?
Yeah.
So just those little tweaks and things, I think, really add to the experience. Going back to USC and how I look at it always PA as kind of, yes, I'm kind of sometimes excited, but I'm also a butler, that I'm like, I'm giving you information without you necessarily knowing where it's coming from. Or like, like that guy has 3 fouls. It's like, well, how did I know that? It's like, oh yeah, the PA guy said it.
Mhm.
You know, like
Yeah.
you just are kind of in that back and just setting the table and making sure that everybody has what they need.
Mhm.
And then at USC, I've always treated as this game is bigger than anybody that's here. Like,
Absolutely.
how do we make this a big game
Yes.
or a big event,
Mhm.
right? If you go to like a smaller type school,
Mhm.
right, they might do some things like, all right, you know, make fun of the other team kind of thing.
Yeah.
But to me at USC, that's not what USC
No.
is, right?
Yeah.
And I've been lucky in that and fortunate that I've been able to carry that style and bring that sort of decorum and class, if you will,
Yes.
to the USC sports.
Absolutely.
You never. This is one thing that over the years learning is like you never want somebody to leave a game saying that announcer was terrible.
No, yeah.
You either want them to say nothing at all, or like that announcer was really good.
Yeah.
But like if you're going away saying that you're terrible, then you're doing something wrong.
I agree.
So
And it sucks now. I feel like maybe I'm just a little snobby about it. I can't, when I go to sporting events, like obviously the ones that I don't announce, sometimes I'll be on the sideline with the football team, sometimes I'll be on the bench with the basketball team. And I do hear announcers that maybe shouldn't be announcers or they were just volunteers or whatever the case is. It does hit wrong. And I'm like,
it is it's a, I was telling somebody this the other day, actually, I go, anybody can do it.
yeah.
But it takes a little bit more to really be great at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it not necessarily comes down to, you know, do you have a good voice or not?
No.
It comes down to knowing when you need to say something, when you don't need to say something, what is very important, when, you know,
Yes.
all those kind of things in and a tone, right? So like you said, not necessarily, it's not about having a good voice or not, it's about the tone of the voice, like
Inflections.
the inflection, you
Mhm.
know. Foul on number 48, his third, team 7th, coming up on that bonus, you know, like there's that tone, and like that might be funny for like a little bit, you know, but is that really kind of professional
No.
and like making it, you know, and instead, like say, that makes you just look like say maybe like at a smaller school, or you could kind of get away with that kind of being goofy,
less professional or more free flowing. I
free
don't know. I
flowing, and
guess.
it's not as like, I don't know if there's constraints or not, but
Yeah.
there's some schools where they sort of want that. I just am not of that ilk
Yeah.
to do that.
I think the only time I've done that when I used to work at the high school at Fairmont Prep, we had a Husky Bowl. Like it was just our students playing flag football against one another. So yeah, I'm gonna be talking a little.
There's a little,
a little more free flowing, just kind of being like, "Oh, right through the hands. What are you wearing the gloves for? If you can't."
Well, especially like if an alumni game or something,
yeah,
you
something
know,
fun.
those kind of things for sure. But if it's a game and it's two different schools or teams, then there has to be. Then I think there, you know, you want to make it to where they feel respected, and you're doing a good job for the home team. And
Absolutely,
kids at home, always make sure you get the home team names right.
yes,
that's and get the away teams right too, because people deserve to hear their name
absolutely
right,
yes.
how they want it. So, and that just takes a little bit of extra to go down and make that effort and
Yes.
you know, make sure that they get it right.
I'm gonna add on to that really quick. Coaches, you should know who your players are. So last week, I've been doing girls high school flag football for the last 2 years, I think. And my alma mater, Covina, I do their home games. And last week they played against a school from a neighboring city. I won't say the school's name, but I went down. I got there late because they started the game early, so I was like a few minutes late. I came in. I didn't get the girls' names, and it wasn't on Max Preps. So I'm like, okay, I have like 4 names. Hopefully, I'm assuming they're good players because they're the only 4 names, and everyone else I'll just kind of work around. I'll go down at halftime. I went down at halftime. They're losing, And I went up to the assistant coach first, and I said, "Excuse me, I just wanted to, if you could help fill out this roster for me, I can get the girls' names, pronunciations." He's like, "Oh, it's okay, man. You don't have to." And then I said, "You don't know?" He goes, "No, I don't know their names." And so then I went to the head coach, and I was like, "Excuse me, coach, I just wanted to see if you could help me fill out this roster so I can get the girls' names right while I'm up there." And she goes, "It doesn't matter." And I got, as a coach, as a fan of my own sports teams that I've announced for, that I've coached, that I've watched over the years, that's so disrespectful as a coach to not know your kids' names. As a parent, I'm not a parent, but if I were, I would be pissed if my coach didn't know my kid's name or didn't care enough to give the PA announcer my kid's name. Because, like you said, for me, I do appreciate that it's for. I mean, it's obviously it's for the people in the crowd, right? You want to give the information, relay information, but especially when it comes to like high school, I do it for the kids too. Like the kids want to hear their name when they do something good, even the opposing team. For me, I think that's important. So I'm not just. They were like, "Yeah, just say numbers."
Well, that it goes to that thing too of just say numbers or first names. Like I can't just say
No.
back to serve Tim.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
that doesn't sound
professional.
great. And the other thing about it too is that sometimes if you coach for a long time, and I've coached track for a long time, a lot of times these kids playing high school, they don't get this many opportunities to hear their name.
Exactly.
There's not many that are going to go on and play again.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they might be on varsity maybe a year or two. Now, I say that knowing that now, like these little kids have like, there's ballpark DJ out there and all these things. So all these little kids now have like my youngest nephew has a walk-up song for T-ball, and I'm like, no, let's save some things for the varsity level, right?
For when it gets real.
For when it gets real. But you might not hear your name in that ever really again in that game. And Max Preps is a great resource. And I always go back to this happened earlier today. The more that you put on Max Preps, the less I have to bother you before the game.
Yes.
So you can always kind of tell how the game's going to go based on that, based on how organized it is, if it's on there, if it's correct, if it's or if it's not on there, if the coach is annoyed when you ask him about it, if the coach is like, I got to add this player or whatever, or they're friendly. And so it really, and then you kind of like, okay, I want to give a little extra for this away team because their coach was nice.
Yeah, exactly. Back to your point of like for the kids who probably won't ever hear their name. Like I coached frosh soft basketball for the last 2 years, and last year we were actually pretty good. And again, coaches know your kids' names because when you have to fill out the book and the coaches are like, "Oh, just the numbers. I don't know their names." And that used to, as a coach, I'm not even announcing. Just like that's so messed up. How do you not know your kids' names? I'd say it was a small school. There was maybe 500 something, 600 kids on campus. I knew at least 500 of these kids' names. I had to work with them all the time. For my frosh soft kids, even their frosh soft Max Preps page, I took over and I put in their stats and I put on their names and their jersey numbers. I don't have to do that. Realistically, sadly, nobody cares about frosh soft. Really, nobody cares about JV. Everyone's focused on varsity in a general sense. But for me, I'm like, I don't know if these kids will make it to varsity. I don't know if they're going to stick around. I don't know if they're going to play after this year. Let me give them their little shine. So-and-so had double-double. So-and-so had 15 and 5. And you can see, and they got excited. They would come up to me during school and be like, "Coach, I'm the number one freshman in the country." My best player, according to Max Preps, he was the number one kid in the country because I put in the stats. And they were accurate. I try to keep them humble. I wasn't trying to overinflate them. But, yeah, the fact that coaches can't even give the PA announcers their kids' names to me is so frustrating.
Well, I just think at a varsity level,
should
there's a lot of schools out there. Like I found, like in boys volleyball, a lot of schools didn't have like a PA guy, so I was kind of an anomaly, 20 years ago, right? But now most do, or they have music at least, or whatever. So on the varsity level, you should know like that's going to be a thing. Mm-hmm. I was announcing water polo, and a coach, I said, okay, well, the girls are going to, come out of the water. We'll play the national anthem. I'll introduce your team. your starters and then the other team starters.
Mhm.
And she's like, we're not going to do that. I said, you're at our place. Like,
Yeah.
this is what we do. And again, it was that thing of like water polo, especially like they're not going to get their chances to hear their names
No.
that much.
No.
So let's give them a little,
Yeah, they're
little
shining in the
juice.
beginning.
Yeah. So you see all these different personalities
It's crazy.
and doing all this.
It's a crazy world. A lot of people ask me how I got into announcing myself, and I've told that story multiple times. I got asked to do it back in 2019 from my friend who was athletic director of this high school at the time, and it's opened up a lot of opportunities. I got to meet and speak with you, I believe, through Eric Smith, if I'm not mistaken. Is that how we met? Or like
I don't know.
I think we spoke.
I don't remember.
So my friend Taurus, shout out to Taurus, works at Glendora High School. I believe he's a campus supervisor. He's also a coach.
Tartans.
Yeah, the
My
Tartans.
brother plays the bagpipes. He picked it up 3 years ago. So we go to Scottish Fest every year, and then Glendora's there with their fife and drum band. So
I think this was like 2021. My friend Taurus, who had been working in Glendora for a year or two, said, "Hey, you know what's crazy? One of my coworkers is the PA announcer for the Clippers." And I said, "Who?" He said, "His name's Eric. They call him Mr. Smith, Eric." And I said, "Oh, can you get me in contact with him? I just want to talk to him. Like, I need. This is my second year. I was finishing up my second year announcing. I'm like, yeah, any advice he can give me." Spoke to Eric. Hearing his voice on the phone is crazy. He has a great voice. And I found out he'd done the Dodgers. He did LA Galaxy. He did the Chargers. He's done He's the USC football voice right now, and for the past decade or 2 decades or something like that.
I think it's been probably 15 years. No, maybe a little less, but somewhere in there. Yeah.
So
at least 10.
Speaking to him, I think he gave me your contact information because obviously you guys have crossed paths in this crazy announcing world that I didn't know exists until like maybe 3 years ago, honestly, because I stuck to high school and again open opportunities. And I want to say thank you because you've given me opportunities I know last year you asked if I could, and I kind of responded a little late to be the internal PA announcer for the Rams for one of the Rams games last year.
One of the Rams games, but you went and shadowed, right?
I did, and
so that was my idea. So that I called Art. It was like about 20 minutes later or so, and I had this idea. I said to artists, I go, why don't you have Ricky, if he can do it? I guess they came back to you and said, well, we found our guy. Like
they
I think
brought back
Joe did it.
Shout out to Joe.
Shout out to Joe. But I said to artists, I go, why don't you have Ricky just come in and shadow so he knows how it works and the whole thing.
And I'll be on the list now. So.
And then you're on the list.
So I appreciate you.
But I think they got a different guy.
I know, yeah.
Dave or something, Doug or something.
He's the one who took over for Joe, right?
They kind of offered it to me, and I said, that's a lot of driving.
Yeah, it's not easy drive out to Inglewood, especially on game day. But yeah, you give me that opportunity. I know I covered one or two I did the alumni game for USC baseball, and then I ended up covering, I believe, their second home game at Great Park in Irvine. I did the women's and men's tennis matches at the end of the school year. So appreciate you, Leland, for giving me those opportunities.
Well, thanks for filling in.
It's whenever you need me to. I know that's the advice that I know you and Eric both share with me is that when I first spoke with you guys is take anything, any event, if it's something like for USC, I'm happy to be paid, but I would have done it for free at least the first.
Good to know.
At least at least the first time, just for a tryout. So, and but yeah, I've been taking a lot of jobs as much as I can. Obviously, I know as a PA announcer, it fills up quick when people are like, "Oh, can you do this sport? Can you do this sport?"
Yeah.
And you get schools left.
If you're a good one, you usually are working a lot, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that. And I was going to circle back to something you said earlier, where it's going back to being a good and bad PA announcer. I'm thankful that I've had away teams and away coaches and even officials say, "Wow, that guy's pretty good." And also circling back to you saying not to be petty against the other team. I'm gonna show my hand a little bit here. I've actually been petty against my own team before.
Oh.
Because again, as a coach, especially for the team that I did coach, when they're messing up in the game and you're disappointed as a coach and a fan, I won't hype up the other team, but after a while, I know they're gonna get irritated if I say certain things, and another touchdown, and another 3-pointer, and another turnover and I know, like, I don't know how the kids take it. I don't know if they're paying attention, but that's my little pettiness to the team I'm going for. Because for me, it would light a fire under my ass if I was an athlete. Like, oh, I'm gonna shut this dude up because he's talking way too much shit against us, and you're supposed to be with us. I am. You guys got to do better.
Well, to touch on what you said about taking any job, you try to do that, and he didn't tell me this directly, but I know he sort of said this to when people asked him about it. So the longtime play-by-play announcer for USC football, Tom Kelly, they were doing a piece on him or something like that, and he said, like, I just said yes. I just said yes to whatever job it was when he started and everything. And so and even Tom Hammond, who was a longtime voice of Notre Dame football or NBC, I think he did synchronized swimming or gymnastics for a long time. And then that led him to be the NBC primary college football guy for Notre Dame. So you just never know. We had a longtime coach that I coached with at the high school. He just passed away a couple months ago, and they just had a celebration of life for him on Saturday. I didn't get up and share this story, but it's a story of you never know. So Pete Carroll, after his first year, was at a track meet, and I was coaching track at the time, and he came to a track meet with his wife and two other couples. The wife of the couple he came with, she went to Crescenta Valley High School. So she came over, and this coach that just passed, Coach Gilliland, she said, "Oh, I went to CV. I just wanted to say hi." And he goes, "Oh, I remember you. Oh, yeah, you were in my biology class, and you got a B minus, and you had a." This guy's mind was a steel trap. Like, don't ask me any times of like former runner. He'll tell you what they were. Like, it was crazy. And so he goes, "Oh, this is Coach here and Coach this," and he goes, "That's Coach Waters," and he announces USC women's volleyball. Now, Pete Carroll's daughter, Jamie, was on the team, and that's kind of what pulled him to USC. Another sort of like you never know kind of situation. And so she says, "Would you want to meet Pete?" I was like, "I don't know. I'm having a hot dog." So I said, "Sure, why not?"
I was like, "There's no way."
And 3 hours later, after I sat with him and Glenna, his wife, we were just talking about football. We were talking about track. We were talking about volleyball. We were talking about comedy. Because if he wasn't a football coach, he'd want to be a comedian.
I can see that.
But that all came about because this coach, introduced me, like, and you just never know how those things are going to come about. And that led to Pete and I had this relationship where we really never talked about, like, hey, what's going on with this guy? We would talk comedy. And I remember one time I was fortunate to be on the team plane with my dad, and we were drinking water, and then Pete comes up and he leans up over the seat like you do, and he goes, "What are you guys doing drinking water? Don't you know fish fornicate in there?" Which is an old W.C. Fields line. So just to have him be that, attuned to comedy and stuff, and to have that bond and I actually, really good friend of mine, became director of ops and got us go to see one of the movies that they show the team during summer practice. And so I go with my brother, and Pete sees me, and my brother was a cinema major, grad school at USC. So he sits in the front, and I'm in the front next to him, and all the team's like in the back.
Yeah.
And Pete sees me. He's like, "Hey, Leland, you want to do some time? You want to do some stand up?" And I'm like, in my head, this is the worst setup for stand up. Like, the lights are all on. Everybody's, midway and back.
Yeah.
It's a huge room. And I'm like, Pete, but it's Pete Carroll. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah, let's do some stand up. And he gets, he's like, "Okay, I'll come back, and it's a big opportunity for us now." And it's like, all right. So then, so he comes back and he goes, "Well, we want to thank Slew for setting this up. And before the movie starts, we're going to have Leland Waters. He's going to talk to you." Doesn't say that I'm a comedian or anything. It's like, so they're sitting there like, is this guy like a motivational speaker? Does this make a wish for him? Like, what? what is happening? And I go into like some, I don't know, I don't even know what material I did and stuff. I would do Jack Nicholson as a football coach. So I closed with that, and there was like some smattering of laughs, and I was like, thanks, fight on. And then I sat back down and faced the screen, and you just feel, it wasn't aura farm, but like my aura just like sinking in the seat, just like, oh gosh, like I don't even know what the movie was about for like 45 minutes. But those are
the stories.
Those are the stories. Those
Hell
are the
yeah.
things.
Get to perform for the USC football
Like I
team.
say,
And
yeah. And that was one of Pete's things, is I'm going to put people in these situations, and like he would take the football team up to the 10-meter platform, the diving well at USC, the Olympic diving well, and see how they would react to that different type of fear. Like there's not necessarily a fear, but like you need courage to hit somebody.
Yeah.
Right. But you need courage for yourself to jump off into 30 jump off 30 feet into water.
Yeah.
So how are you going to react to that kind of thing? I don't know if that helps in PA, but
I mean, it might.
That's kind of the thing too. There was a time where for a long time I was kind of working up to be the men's basketball announcer. And a lot of times I would sort of fill in, but I never really liked the guy. And then I became the guy. And then there was a game where I was walking to Galen Center, and game management called me and says, are you coming to tonight's game? And I said, yeah. And I go, and they said, well, we need you to announce tonight's game. And keep in mind, this is SC UCLA. So it doesn't get any better than this.
Yeah.
But I don't have my normal roster set up, and so I'm writing it down, writing it and everything. And I just remember I was writing it, and I looked up, and I just see this wall of people, and I'm like, wow, this is, at the time, I think the biggest crowd that I had announced for. But at the end of the day, you still just have to focus on just like that single thing that you're doing. This play, this moment, this person's going to the line, this person got this foul, whatever, and you try not to think about like there's 10,000 people here. Yeah. It's like you just think of it as
you're watching the game,
a mass, and you're just focused on what the ref tells you or what the game is going to dictate to you.
Agreed. I mean, people ask me all the time about how do you do that? Like, how you're not nervous? You don't. I said honestly, well, I don't really get nervous anymore about most things or anything, but when it comes to public speaking, I feel like, one, like you said, anyone could do it. The other question is, would anyone
do it?
And the answer 9 out of 10 times is no. People will not get behind a mic to speak in front of even a dozen people, let alone hundreds or thousands of people. So in my thought process, I think I'm a pretty decent PA announcer, but even if I had a bad day or if I made a mistake or I messed up, bottom line is you wouldn't be up here doing what I'm doing because it comes back to, do you need courage for PA announcing? I would say so. I think so.
Yeah. I think there's a certain amount of moxie, or the audience gives, it's kind of like comedy in a way. The audience, they're there to laugh. So it's like, you make me laugh. But at certain points too, it's like, I'm celebrating that you're doing that and not making me do it. Yeah, or that you're up there doing it, and like if you make a mistake or you said a name wrong or something, like you could always fall back on that. It's like, well, yeah, but you might make fun of me, but okay, let's see what you got. And they're like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
That happened. There was something that it jarred a memory that I was. Speaking of, I don't know if we're supposed to say when this is recorded, but 9/11 is on the horizon, and I was supposed to have a show on the night of 9/11, and it got canceled. But we did have a show the next day, like on September 12th, and it was the weirdest, but almost like most healing experience I've ever had, because people weren't ready to laugh yet, but those of us that were on stage, like it was very cathartic because all you were seeing was just footage over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But the people supported us. Those that it was a small room, but the people in the crowd, like they weren't ready to like full laugh, but they were like, "Thank you for taking my mind off of things,"
Mm-hmm.
and and then like for me, I felt like a weight. I just felt lighter because to get that out.
Yeah.
So my PA experience is a little different in the sense that I come at it as a performer and from like a stand-up acting kind of thing. A lot of PAs come at it from they're in radio. They have a wonderful tenor to their voice. Lawrence Tanner,
Tanner, yeah.
Lakers, jazz DJ, that sort of thing. Jerry Buss loved his voice, and then but I came from like the stand-up world, and part of I think the longevity of my career is that I didn't do it to get into play-by-play. Some people do that, and like that's kind of their thing, and it's like a stepping stone. For me, it was like I just like doing PA is kind of cool because then the crowd gets to hear me, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell in certain ways of how I announce things that I have a comedy background because I'll set things up with my voice. And then it's like, when am I going to hit you with that payoff?
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, even if it was like, Ricky, like, like you never know when that's coming. And that's kind of the setup punch of stand-up.
That's kind of what I took from you because aside from helping me get fill-in gigs, you've also helped me when I have had my own gigs in sports I've never called before. I've called you when it came to lacrosse, when it came to water polo, volleyball. How do you call? I've watched volleyball. I've never watched lacrosse before this year. I never watched water polo before last year. So speaking to you, and then I think it's been like 2 years now that I went to go watch you do the Women of Troy volleyball match, and just seeing how you announced it, I'm like, but again, not to copy you, I'm like, okay, he has his own style. I can't do that. I have my like you said, you do kind of hold it, wait for that punch, and then people are like, the crowd goes wild. I want to ask you about your stand-up background. How did that get started? Was that something you always wanted to do as a kid? And where's that? Obviously you've gone your PA, but as far as just the stand-up route, how has that gone for you?
It kind of goes back to that public speaking thing. I was in the 4th grade, and my mom made me the MC of the talent show. And
shout out to mom,
which I never had that. People have that bone of like, I would rather die than public speak. And I've always I don't get that. Like, I can't remember not knowing how to swim. So not knowing how to swim is very like foreign to me. So like not wanting to be able to public speak is foreign to me too.
I agree.
Because I was always like,
and
I would read at church, and
same.
And I was emceeing, and somebody did an act or whatever, and I was like, well, isn't that special? The Dana Carvey church lady, and I got a laugh, and it was like, wow, that was really cool. And so Jonathan Winters, Robin Williams, Dana Carvey, and Jim Carrey are like my comedy heroes. And Dana Carvey, like, I feel like very similar-esque and voice-wise and all that kind of stuff. So I would do all of his impressions, and for me, the goal was Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
Still is. So if anybody out there,
if anyone sees
this, well, we feel Leland's a little older. So when I got my first goal was to get to USC. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I got there. I just get me in.
Yeah.
So I got in, and then I was like, oh, and then they said, well, you're a runner, so you have to pick your major by your junior year. Oh, okay. I thought I was going to go business. My math score says, no, you're not. You're my math classes. So then I was like, I'll switch to communications, because part of my thinking was like, if I go into business, they're going to train me on the job kind of how they want me to do it anyway. So why not bring the effective communication piece to it? So that was my thought. And then it would help with stand-up. So then I graduated, and I said, well, what do I want to do? Like, what, some guys want to get a red car. And it's like, I just want to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And so it's like, And then it's like, well, how do you get to Saturday Night Live? It's like, well, if you want to be a lawyer, you go to law school.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday Night Live, there's a couple different ways. You could do stand-up. You could do the Groundlings. You could go to Second City. You could maybe be an actor, and somehow. So I ended up going to the Groundling, or did some stand-up, open mic nights and stuff like that, and then took some class at the Groundlings, and I took some acting class because they said your acting's not as strong. And I was like, all right. I was performer of the year in my high school, but it's very small. I mean, everybody in Hollywood was, right?
Yeah.
So, but so then I just started doing more and more stand up, and then like a buddy would have a show, and then I would do that show, and then like somebody there would say like, hey, I'm putting on this show, and like, you want to do this show? And I was like, sure. So then I would do that show, and kind of got in with some groups, and then just I don't know if it's not to my detriment, but like I never I would do it kind of off and on. So, but it certainly helped me doing PA, but it also there's a lot of people out there that I think I could do stand-up comedy. I'm really funny at work. And you're like, until you do it, I was nervous. And I would probably be nervous again because I haven't done it in a little while. But you go from can I do this to now I can do this, but now I'm nervous for the material because this is a new crowd and they haven't heard this, and I could do this same act and it would kill here, but the way this room is set up, it's crickets.
Yeah.
And that's the case for everybody. Now, great stand-ups, they have more shows than good shows than bombs, but there's still bombs in there.
Yeah, of course.
And everybody, that's the thing. It thickens your skin, and I found open mics when I was doing those. I realized this is just for me to thicken my skin. This is not a way for me to test if the material is good, because there's 20 other comics sitting there thinking they're funnier than I am, so they're not really gonna laugh.
Yeah.
They might support me and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was kind of that's a little bit of it too, and in LA it's tricky because everybody thinks they're funny. I have a friend who she was told by her acting coach, I want you to do stand up so you can flesh out what your character is going to be in a sitcom. And so what, you're not really doing stand up? You're not pursuing to be a stand up comedian? So you get that, which is, her journey, that's fine. But then it's you have to wade through all that to get to people that are really here for stand up, where they're not just trying out a character. Or some people are this is my therapy. What?
Just can't. Yeah, I've seen. There's a local bar over here in Covina, Chatterbox. When you used to go there a lot, they had open mic nights, I believe, on Sundays and Thursdays, something like that. And I always wanted to just try it, not because I don't think I'm that funny. I think if anything, I'm more situationally funny, or one good one-liner here and there. Just say I did it, just to kind of get. It's
say you did it,
just like a bucket list thing, maybe. And I know
karaoke. Just to
say
I
do karaoke. I love karaoke. I do it all the time. But for just I think it's 5 minutes is the max. And I was I think I could maybe make a couple people in this room laugh in the next 5 minutes. If I have crazy stories and fun stories. But yeah, I never got the chance to. I still would be down. So if anyone has open mic nights, I don't need, just give me 5 minutes. And that actually is a good segue to my question for you. For open mic nights, was there a time limit? Did you have to fill out the time, or?
Sometimes it was usually 3 minutes or 5, but you'd go to these coffee shops, you put your name on the list, and then in the best of ways, they draw your name, so you never know if you're going next or not. I'm a huge believer that a lot of comics, I don't want to go first, or I don't want to go last, or I don't want to go after this guy. I'm a huge believer that you go when you go, and you just make you do what you do. And if somebody killed before you went and the crowd isn't ready for the next person, and it takes you a while to get them on your side, there's some work in that. There's some skill, and there's some learning in that, right? And because some people are I don't want to, I got to go on here, and it's just go on when you go on. And a lot of times too, I would find a lot of people would do the same material over and over again. Which is great if you're kind of building up for a special, But if you're, doing sort of like in the comedy world, there's like shows where it's like there'll be like 10, 12 to 15 comics and each do like about 8 minutes or so. There's those shows, and then there's like a road room where it's like you'll have like an MC and then maybe like a feature and then your headliner. So if you're a headliner, you can do like the same 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
That you're parading around. But I always looked at it as like, I'm going to do some stuff that I know works. And then if it works, then I can keep it in my bag of tools. And then I'm going to try some new stuff just to keep it fresh for me and for, try and add up some new stuff. But I would see people like over and over again do the same thing. I'm like, why? Like, you got to keep growing with it,
I was going to ask for those time limits. Let's say you get a good pop in like the first minute, like your first joke hits. Do you think as a comic, you end it like, I'll say more for like an open mic night. Do you end it there, just one good laugh, and you're like, all right, thanks everyone, or do you have to fill it, or would you say, that was a good one, now you'll like this one?
Well, that's the thing is like, okay, that one worked. Was it because of, did I say something about the room or the situation, or is that universal? And then it's like, okay, that worked. I can file it away as it worked. But then you keep the thing about stand up in LA and anywhere really is you're paid in stage time.
Yeah.
So the more that you can be up on the stage, the greater it is, right? So even if you get up there and one joke hits and the rest just bomb horribly, or there's two people in the crowd, you're still getting stage time. And that's still good learning that you can, you can record it, listen back, like, oh, I didn't like how that sounded, or I could change this, or, I can use this time. There's times where I've been on stage and I never bring notes on stage. And I'd always kind of have like a little code. Like if I did, like my finger, if I did this, that means, oh, I'm going to go into this bit. Or if I did, like, okay, if I touch here, that means this bit, right? But never notes, especially at like, if you're at a show where there's like 10, 12 comics, and people are paying $20, probably more now.
Yeah.
Like you can't just go up there and look like you're just like, you don't have it all together. Like you got to, same thing with PA. You got to respect that they came out on a Friday night or a Thursday night or a Tuesday to Hollywood, paid their whatever. And yeah, they might be there to see somebody else, but like, you can't just flop and like use them as like your testing ground. Like you got to kind of
deliver,
bring it for them.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Same with PA. Like these people came to an event, to a game, and you want to give them like the best game experience they can have.
Yes.
So I've always been a proponent of the show, and again, the show of the game. You have to make the show really good, and it's not about one person. It's not just about you. It's not just about the DJ. It's not just, it's really about the team, right? And the game experience. But how do we give people that, whether it's, and this is all show business, where you give them the best show that they can experience. And a lot of times I think, and speaking of what you just said about, I want to try and do stand-up, there's a lot of people that work in sports and in marketing and entertainment that haven't been an entertainer. And that lends it to, you guys, you just don't know, like, this is not good for the crowd, or this is cheesy, or this is like, it's not going to go over well because you haven't experienced what that reaction is, or what, being up on stage, the dynamic, the bombing, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Again, and I agree with you. I wouldn't do it with all due respect, I would do it just to try it. It's not something I would make a career out of, because I don't think I'm that funny. But
well, they say it's not necessarily. I mean, you have to have
delivery.
Well,
timing.
I think you have to have a sense of humor and a real sense of like, this is funny. This is going to work for a crowd. This is what I think is funny to me. And a lot of times it's not necessarily the funniest person that makes it as a stand-up. It's the one that persists.
True.
And just keeps going.
Yeah,
right.
That's definitely me.
So if that becomes a goal, it's just, you just got to keep getting up and thickening thickening that skin and being able to handle like all kinds of situations, whether it's hecklers, whether it's, the room is crappy. Pete Carroll comes at you and says, we need you to do some stand up for these guys that just have practice, so they're tired. And there's in that too, like there's things where if the room is, lit up versus if it's dark, if it's dark, if it's cold, if it's small, or if it's intimate, people will laugh. If it's hot and lit up and you're spread out, they're not as apt to laugh. And that's why, like, when you go to a comedy club, you see people sitting pretty close to each other, so they have that, you become that audience.
Yeah. I agree. You said you were originally from Hawaii?
I grew up here in Montrose, where I live now, but when I was right before I turned 10, moved to Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
And then continued my schooling there all the way through high school.
So you were born here in California. Your family moved to Hawaii, but you always grew up a USC guy.
I was a USC guy.
So you did everything you could to make sure you got back here to attend USC.
I did. My friends in high school, I only applied to USC. My friends in high school were like, what are you going to do if you don't get in? It's like, I don't know. I'll go to Glendale College for a year or two. But I remember the day was, I want to say it was on my birthday. My birthday's in May. And my dad brought me the letter to a track meet I was at. And I just remember reading the letter and just jumping up and down like a crazy banshee or something right in the middle of the infield, and that I got in. And it once I got in, a couple of years later, and then it was like, okay, well, now what do I do?
Yeah,
like I said,
I made it, but
I achieved the goal, and now, so I sometimes, sometimes you get into where it's like, another game, but I sometimes pinch myself of like, I get to sit center court
at the Galen Center.
At Galen Center, this Galen Center didn't exist when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But to be a kid and to be on my dad's shoulders in Arizona when I was like 5, and we took a trip to go watch them play, the Wildcats, to, be the PA guy for 25 years now, it's pretty awesome. Special. It was pretty special.
Absolutely. I think even when you let me cover for baseball at Great Park, it wasn't USC like campus, but I was sitting in the booth like, this is crazy, because I grew up a USC fan my whole life. My grandma, who has lived in South Central for the last 40 years, like a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles from the campus. My uncle's a huge USC fan. My cousin, they gave me the USC fandom. So just being at Great Park, and then when I got to do the tennis matches on USC campus, I was like, you see the big SC logo, and I'm like, oh man, this is awesome.
I mean, it's pretty incredible when you go and tailgate at a football game and you see to me, the Trojan family is a thing. It is a thing, absolutely, 100%. And Trojan fans are loyal.
We are.
And rabid and just passionate.
Yep.
And to be, a part of their experience is just like, it's humbling, but unfathomable at some level too.
I 100% agree.
It's
a surreal feeling. And I know even for you, after 25 years, that you're still, like you said, you're still sitting there pinching yourself, because
I'm getting chills right now. Just thinking about, we just won the indoor and outdoor championship for men's track, and to have worn the shield and been and then, so like in 3 capacities, right? Like as a student athlete,
coach.
I haven't coached at USC.
Oh,
I did coach at USC, but women's ultimate, so not a D1 sport. But to be the announcer, and then for us to win, like we hadn't won indoors since '72. So for us to compete in indoors, we didn't compete in indoors for a long time. And then we finally came back to it, and then we win it, and then we win outdoor in the same year. Like, that's just, as somebody who was the steeple chaser, scrawny little freckled redhead from Hawaii that got to be on the team and ended up 9th all time when I was finished. And just that journey, and then to announce a lot of the meets and be a part of it. I see Quincy Watts, like, what's up, Q? And you're like, what? Like, this guy was the Olympic 400 champion. Like, even like Michael Cooper coached our women's basketball, and I tell this story where I was leaving a game, and it was raining outside, and Cooper and I got to the door at the same exact time, and he had an umbrella, and so he puts up this umbrella. He's like, "You want to share my umbrella?" And I was like, "Nah, Coop, I'm good." And I said, "Yeah," I'm like, "Oh, thanks, that'll be great."
Yeah.
And so we're walking along down to where the parking garage is, and in my head, I'm trying to be cool, like, "Yeah, it was a good game," And in my head, I'm like, I'm under the umbrella with a Showtime Laker. Like, what is my life right now? Like, used to watch those games with my dad, and we would eat ribs and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is just surreal, right? And and then it was kind of broken because Cooper's tall, and I'm like, I'm getting drenched from the rain. I'm like, Coop, can you bring it down a little? Like, come on, I'm soaked.
Or at least tilt it.
At least tilt it, angle it with the wind. But he, and then to meet Magic Johnson in the press box announcing football, he was my guy. Magic was my guy. I still say, like, who's the greatest of all time, LeBron or Michael Jordan? Magic Johnson. Maybe put Magic Johnson, like, greatest understander of how basketball works, bar none.
IQ off the charts.
Maybe not like, okay, he didn't have all the points, but probably the best basketball player ever to watch, right? Yeah, making it fun. You never know. That was the thing. Showtime, and the fact of, like, you never know what's going to happen, right? Like now, like, well, LeBron's either going to drive it or he's going to shoot a long three. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But with Magic and those guys, you just had no idea. And it was, it
was fun.
It was great.
Yeah, no, I definitely had those surreal moments going to USC. Even doing for, smaller schools like my alma mater, Covina, I thought that was kind of cool because I didn't play. I was on the bench, but on my senior year, I was on the football team. So being able to announce for football at my alma mater was cool. Now announcing at Citrus College, my other alma mater is a community college. I did one game for Cal Poly Pomona, which is my other alma mater, where I finished my undergrad. I did their baseball. To me, those are surreal moments. So again, I can only imagine for you wanting to go to USC your whole childhood, getting to USC, being a student athlete, to now being this announcer for the last 25 years and still going, and like you said, winning the championships this year. By the way, announcers should get rings. Announcers bring a lot to the table.
For the most part, announcers do get rings.
For the most part.
For the most part. So
I'm just saying, because I know, like my boys' basketball team, we just won CIF in March. But aside from being the announcer, I was on the coaching staff. I was an assistant coach for boys varsity, girls varsity, JV boys, and then I was the head coach for Frosh Soft. And me being on campus all the time, I said this in one of my last videos with my friend Chase, because he also was a coach. The head coach, he tries to be a funny guy. Shout out to Jody, but we were talking the week of the championship game. We're getting ready, and him and I are sitting on the stage practice. I was joking about some coaches who had just left, like early 2 months ago. And I said, so you're going to mail them their rings? And he goes, oh, no, fuck that. They're not getting rings. And I said, yeah, I'm just joking with you. And he goes, I mean, maybe you'll get a ring. And I looked at him and I said, nah, man. I said, don't do it. I'm getting one. You can kiss my ass. I'm for sure all the time. And even if I was just an announcer, I know I'm going to get a ring because the AD and I have a great relationship. And, the parents, the kids, the coaches, they all appreciate good announcers. But yeah, for him, I was like, fuck off. I'm definitely getting my ring, dude. Because, I put in so much time with these damn kids. And it was rewarding. Even if we didn't win, I still am happy to do it because I just love the sport so much. But yes, announcers should get rings.
It means a lot. It means a lot.
It really does.
To be thought of. And I got a call from SC once, and they're like, "What's your ring size?" And I was like, "What am I gonna?" So that was really nice. That was when they include me, it means a lot. And I was at a neighborhood watch meeting earlier, and they put your valuables here, and my immediate thought was my rings. Like, don't take my rings. That's the most valuable. Just they're worth thing monetarily, but
Just
sentimental and to
absolutely.
know like that you're a part of that and everything. And truthfully, like I love wearing them because then it's like people are go, "What's that
Hell
from?"
yeah.
And and to go back to what you said about being at USC and that journey and stuff. So being at the high school, my mom, dad, sister, brother all graduated from that high school, but I'm the only one that didn't.
Because you
But
guys
now I'm
moved.
the voice of the school.
There you go.
So that's a little, just how life weird twists and turns goes.
Like you said, you never know. I was say that earlier. So Joe LaRosa, the great Joe LaRosa, who was previously the internal PA announcer for the Los Angeles Rams. I got to meet him face to face for the first time last year, and I think I told you this, but I'll say the story because it was really funny. When you sent me to the LA Rams game to just shadow whoever they got to cover, it ended up being Joe LaRosa, their old internal PA, and the name sounded so familiar. And I'm sitting there with him talking. And I'm asking him, "Oh, how'd you get started?" And he told me his story. And then it hit me. I said, "You do modern day, don't you? Modern day high school." He said, "Yeah." I said, "You're the football announcer." He said, "Yeah." And I said, "So you were the one who had that hot mic moment in the first game of the season?" And he said, "Not as far as you know." And I started laughing, and he goes, "How'd you hear about that?" I said, at the time, one of my coworkers, her son played soccer in modern day, so they went to all the games, and she's very involved, and so she got the article. Not too many people saw it, which is probably a good thing. He didn't say anything horrible.
No, it wasn't terrible. It was just one of those.
I mean, it was honest.
It was an honest thing, and it was just
But he said he didn't know it wasn't his mic. I guess because of the live stream, they had put the mic in the booth, and he wasn't aware.
Right.
So we talk. I don't know about you. I'll speak for myself. Showing my hand again. I talk a lot of shit in the PA booth when the mic is off. To whoever's controlling scoreboard, to any coaches up there. Not talking shit to them, but just about the game. And again, more so my kids than anything, because I'm a huge harsh critic on my own. But talking to Joe about that, I remember him telling me, I said, it's funny, I now fill-in PA announcer for Modern Day High School. I just started like a week before that. And he said, "Oh, that's cool." Like, "Oh yeah, so we'll work together." He goes, "How'd you do that?" I said, "I'll be honest, I saw that hot mic moment from you, and I'm like, maybe they want to replace it." So I sent an email to the AD, and they said, "Actually, yeah, we could use some fill-in PA because Modern Day has a bevy of athletics."
For other sports.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's three of us. It's Joe LaRosa, Wink Williams, if you know who Wink is. He's actually
I don't.
Wink Williams is apparently. He told me he's the backup for Lawrence Tanner for the Lakers announcing job, but Lawrence hasn't missed a game in 40
39 years.
Yeah, so there's him. There's Joey Eberline. Shout out to Joey, and now there's me as like the backup, which is fine. But like you said, just take as many jobs as I can. You never know who's going to listen.
You never know.
Who's going to hear. And yeah, meeting Wink was cool because he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the backup for Lawrence," and da da da. And he goes, "You actually do have a great." Wink has a great voice too, by the way. And just meeting and talking to you guys again. This weird community of PA announcers I never knew existed.
We've had two like PA announcer gatherings. This was kind of before I think you were. So it was
before my time.
It was me, Chuck over at UCLA, Eric, Todd at the Dodgers, Lawrence, Dave, who was the Kings at the time, Mike, who does Angels and Galaxy, Phil, who's the Ducks, Hootie, who does the Sparks. And it was like the night before the All-Star game, because that was the only time where all of us had a night off. And even in that, I think Eric had to leave because LAFC had a game. It was like a playoff game.
That guy's so busy.
Well, there's this adage I don't know if it's if it's public or not, but there's an adage that you're not really a PA announcer in LA until you lose a job to Eric Smith. To which I've told him that, and he knows about it. But he and I were up for the USC football, and they went with Eric, and it's been terrible ever since. No, it's obviously Eric does a great job.
His voice is insane. He's a great announcer. LAFC, USC football. He was the Raiders announcer.
The Raiders for a little bit. Chargers for a little bit.
Chargers. Clippers. He's still doing the Clippers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been around. And I think I've gone to a few LAFC games as shadowing the director of their radio broadcast for
Oh.
ESPN 710, Mario Ruiz. Shout out to Mario. And again, talking about you never know who you're going to meet. One of my in 2021, when I'm around the same time I met or contacted you and Eric, one of my basketball players at the time, his dad, we were at practice, and he goes, oh, so what do you want to do? Like, what do you go to school for? And I told him I wanted, my goal was to be a play-by-play broadcaster or an analyst on Sports Center, ESPN, TNT, whatever, any sports channel I would love to do. And he said, oh, you know, I have a buddy who works for ESPN 710. You know, I'll put you in contact with him. Maybe you could talk to him and get some advice and make connections. Cool. And ended up being Mario Ruiz, who I've shadowed a couple times at LAFC practices and then a couple LAFC matches. And I heard Eric before I didn't think about it. I kind of remembered him being the PA announcer, but hearing his voice, I was like, I know that guy. That voice sounds so familiar. I said, hey, who's the PA announcer? And Mario told me, Eric Smith. I said, I fucking knew it. I said, his voice is very distinct. When he answered the phone the first time, it sounded almost like Dennis Haysbert, because I actually met Dennis Haysbert one time at my cousin's graduation years ago. Yeah, it's a weird community, but I love it. I'm happy to be a small part of it. I'm still getting my feet wet. I have not lost a job to Eric Smith yet, but I haven't competed.
Give it time.
I haven't competed against Eric Smith for a job yet.
Well, it's interesting because my PA, like you said, like who did you, I don't know, glean it from? And there wasn't really sort of one person, but I'm almost like in a weird way, like impressions, like because I'll change my voice, but Eric lives it. Like that's
it.
Like,
that's how he sounds.
I'll have some cornflakes. Like that's like he lives in that voice all the time. So
I'll tell you, is this Ricardo? I was like,
yeah.
whoa.
Some some people sometimes they tell me like I wouldn't think that you're an announcer. It's like, well, because I have a school voice and this voice and like a stand-up voice
I can code switch.
And I switch it all. Like my dad will always say like you could announce as Mickey Mouse, you know, or like Jack Nicholson or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's cool to have that dexterity.
Yeah.
But Eric, like you said, has that voice of just
that's how it
is. That's how it is.
It comes as advertised. Yeah, I've had the same thing where because this is my normal voice. This is how I normally speak to people. You know, I can have inflections in it. I can animate myself as well, but for the most part, this is how I speak. And I know one of my friends who is a football coach at another school. He was watching film on my alma mater, and he heard my voice on the tape, and he said, "That's not him. That doesn't sound like his voice." And he saw me one time. He goes, "Why are you doing that to your voice?" I said, "What are you talking about? That's how I sound." I said, "I feel like I sound weird on the mic. I feel like my normal voice. I get compliments on my voice all the time in person, but on the mic." On a football stadium mic, it sounds a little weird, I think. In a basketball court or a gym where it's a little more enclosed, I think it reverberates off the walls pretty well. But yeah, that's funny that people, like you said, and then when you animate it, of course, for the home team, you get hyped up where you can, like my girls' basketball team likes when I go, boom! The kids who see me very serious and stern at work, and then I'm messing around behind the table with my buddy, and we're watching the game, and I'm hyping the crowd up. They're like, Coach Rick? And I'm like, yeah, I'm working, dude. Hold on. But this is my normal voice. This is his normal voice, but he is the voice of USC. My last question,
Sure.
I call him the voice of USC. He's done. Eric Smith has a great voice, but you do way more sports, and you are alumni. So, voice of USC, Leland Waters. My last question is: when you moved, just out of curiosity, because I have friends from Hawaii. Where did you live in Hawaii?
So I lived on the southwest, or southeast, Hawaii Kai.
Okay.
So right by Sandy Beach. I was just there at the start of August, and I don't recommend this to the kids. Sandy Beach is my favorite beach in the world. It's a shore break, so it's very dangerous. So you got to be careful, especially in the summer, because it's the swell moves around the island in the summer. The swell is on the south side. So I went, and fortunately, I took my mom with me because I was kind of worried about, like, I just didn't want to leave a bag on the sand. And I caught, like, I didn't have fins. I didn't usually normally have fins. I caught like about 3 waves, and my right contact popped out.
Oh,
It's that powerful.
yeah.
And so I'm like, ooh. So then I could still see the waves pretty good and everything. So I caught like 2 or 3 more, and one was great. Like you get in the tube and it lifts you up and then it just slams you down. It's like it's just better than Disneyland. My favorite thing in the world to be just drilled in the tube at Sandy's, and my left contact popped out. So now I'm like, I hadn't been to Sandy's in like at least 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
When am I going to come back again? Am I going to be in shape enough to be out here when I'm older? And I'm like, I got to catch one more. I got to catch that one more wave. And I'm like, I can't see without my contact. Everything's fuzzy. Like you'd be a Muppet where it's just fuzzy. And I just remember these waves coming in, and I just took one, and everything was fine. And I rode it, and then I was like, okay, now I got to be smart and get out. And then fortunately my mom was there, and because I didn't bring my glasses, so she drove the rental car back to where we were staying. But I don't recommend that unless hadn't been there for 10 years and it's your favorite body surf spot.
There's your wise words from Leland Waters. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we head out on this episode?
Just thank you for the opportunity to share. Hopefully some people got some things from this, or it was interesting, and
I'm sure
they're welcome to come tap me on the shoulder at any games. It's harder now at soccer at SC because they built the stadium up and that whole thing. I'm curious to see how it's going to work with lacrosse, because usually I'm a little more integrated into the game in lacrosse. But no, it's been great, and it's been great to say there were people I met, took some cruises, and I met some people there, and I say I'm the USC guy, and they're like, what? So it's and then to have some kids that go to USC. I just met with this girl I was an SAE. She was a tryout. Her daughter's now going to USC, and I met with the daughter and her roommate to give her a little, heads up about USC stuff, and so to give back. And there's other fraternity brothers; their kids are going to SC, and so it's like I say, the Trojan family is it's this thing that it's indescribable but real.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful to be a part of it and to serve in the role that I do.
I'm thankful to have filled in a couple of times, and hopefully a couple more in the future. Can I ask you to do one call for
sure.
Women of Troy volleyball, because we're in season
Women
right
of Troy
now.
Volleyball. Just you want me to welcome people to the?
You can do that, or if
point,
or on a kill, or however you want to. I just want people to get a little taste of what you would hear. At the Galen Center.
Let me see. Oh, okay, all right. So just pretend there's action. Leah Ford with the kill. Point for the Women of Troy.
There you go. There's that voice. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode. It's been great having the voice of USC, Leland Waters. He might not think it, but I would say he's a USC legend because alumni, track athlete, star. I would say star.
I would say
you said you finished ninth.
Ninth in the steeplechase all time at USC at one point. I will say this: I do think I am the most prolific announcer in Pac-12 history as of right now, because I don't think the Pac-12. There's a lot of schools that didn't have as many sports as USC, and I don't know. Now I don't know for sure, but I don't know if there's anybody out there that's like me that announces just everything at the school. And then say some schools don't have the sports that we have. Stanford maybe, but I don't know if they're at Stanford if it's the same
guy for the last 25 years who also may or may not have gone to Stanford.
May or may not, I don't know, but I think I have announced the most Pac-12 games. Now Pac-12 is coming back in a new look, so it might change, but I think that title
stands with you right now.
I don't know if it's official, but yeah.
We'll call it official right here on Slick Talk Real Convos. There you go.
This is it right here.
Thank you so much, Leland. I appreciate all the advice over the years, the help.
You're welcome.
Whenever you need to fill in, you know who to call. I know Daniel Tom. Shout out to Daniel. I know you have a relationship with him as well, so we're always open for work. especially for USC. We happily cover. And yeah, thank you for coming out. I appreciate you spending some time with us. I know you
You're
got a busy
welcome.
schedule around this time of year, so thank you for making the time to come out. And as I always say, guys, make sure you have a conversation with someone in your life, someone you care about, someone you love. It could be a minute, it could be hours, doesn't matter. Just make sure you go have that communication with someone. I think that's very important in life. And make sure you make it out to USC game this year. You will probably hear, if not, maybe see Leland somewhere around. So the voice of USC, Leland Waters, coming to you from Slick Talk, Real Convos. This has been Rick Wandike, aka Slick Rick. We'll see you guys next week. Fight on.
And fight on.